Good afternoon, student. Welcome to today class. Today we will discuss laboratory method. The laboratory method of instruction used so successfully in the natural sciences has been adapted for application to geography with equal success. This method has grown out of the directed study. The laboratory method places primary emphasis upon equipment and its uses. It presupposes a well equipped room in which the student have access to book, magazine, maps, picture, drawing, and construction material, and other types of material which will promote better work. The procedure of the laboratory method is similar to that of a problem solving approach or completion of a project or preparation of a chart, models and maps, or conducting of an experiment to arrive at a journal principle. The teacher and the pupils both perform certain experiments based on scientific principle to make certain concept clear. The student either individually or in a group make use of the materials for solving different problems in the subject. This method is based on the principle of learning by doing. The pupils make use of their hands or eyes or every both, often both. The pupils are lead to obtaining information by their active efforts. It is an activity method where the pupils is mentally active all the time, just as a discovery and researcher student. In this method, a child thinks for itself. The child learn only when its mind is active. This method combines the best features of all the methods in a way that make provision for individual difference. This method is based on problem solving, directed or supervised study, and the socialized situation. This method is basically student centered method. This method is based on the learning by doing method, because in laboratory the student uh, doing sub practical, and they learn practical work of subject constitutes laboratory work. The data collected in the field or a farm or from the statistical reports, the transformed into maps and diagram in the laboratory. After the field observation, the need for a laboratory is uh, felt to give concrete shape to the ideas. Now we will discuss some characteristics of uh, laboratory method. Utilize raw data or material things to promote better understanding of the subject matter or lesson. To promote information acquisitions through observation, experimental, solution to problem guided by reflective thinking and acquisitions of scale in manipulation. This method is based on the principle of learning by doing principle. Provide student opportunities to conduct or participate in original research. Next characteristics of laboratory method is develop skills in using laboratory equipment and instruments. Enhance higher order thinking skills in the students. These are the main characteristics of laboratory method. Now we will discuss major goals of laboratory works. Teaching manuals and observation skills relevant to the subject, improving understanding of method of scientific inquiry, developing problem solving and doing by the self skills. Steps in laboratory method. Uh, Generally, uh, steps of laboratory method can be divided in two steps. Preparation, or we can say introductory step. In this step, which provides for motivation and orientation, the following fact should be taken into account. First one is review of past lesson relevant to the present for appreciations. And motivation. Next is rising and defining the work to be done. Next, expected learning outcome. Next is planning. So these are the four steps of providing for motivation and orientation uh, of the preparation and introductory steps. Next steps is actual work period. Uh, Student work under the supervision of the teacher. It means student work under the microscope of the teacher. Next is student may work individually or collectively on a particular problem or on different problem, and direction must be very specific. Now we will discuss guideline using laboratory method. Uh, Make use of power of observation and reasoning. Manipulate learning equipments. Next guideline is make use of reality to make learning easier and more permanent. Next guideline of laboratory method is make use of scientific attitudes in students. Use the laboratory method or procedure. These are the main guideline of when using a laboratory method. Now we will discuss types of laboratory method. Generally, laboratory method can be divided in three types. First is uh, experiment, second is demonstration, and third is cumulative activity. First, I will discuss experimental types of laboratory method. Experimental laboratory method is aimed to train student in problem solving with incidental acquisitions of information and motor skills, emphasizes is on discovery, original procedure, and solution of the problem. So main aim is experimental laboratory method to uh, train the student for solve the problem. Next types of laboratory method is demonstration. Demonstration is a process of presenting or establishing fact or principle. It is a procedure of doing or performing something in the presence of others or either as a means of showing them how to do it or illustrating a principle. Next uh, types of laboratory method is accumulating activities. When the members of a class have completed their laboratory work, the class should meet for discussion and organization of finding or presentation of the result of individual work. So these are the three types of laboratory work: uh, experimental types of laboratory work, demonstration types of laboratory work, and cumulating activities types of laboratory work. Now we will discuss aims of laboratory method. What is the aim of laboratory method? Uh, we will discuss 6 aims of laboratory method. To give first-hand experiences to the student. Next is to provide student participation in original research. Next aim is laboratory method is to develop scale in the use of laboratory equipment and instruments. Next aim of laboratory method is to make use of the power of observation and reasoning. Next aims of laboratory work is to make use reality to make learning easier and permanent. Because in laboratory work, student uh, learning by doing. So the learning is easier and permanent, as we discussed in our previous video lecture. When we will include our maximum senses in learning, the learning is easier and permanent. Next aims of laboratory method is to build scientific attitude in the students. The following types of activity may be used in laboratory work. A student restate the problem that the group has been working on and explain its nature and importance. Review of the plan for solving the problem and organization of plan for recording the data gathered. Presentation of illustrative material or special contribution by students working on special problems. Next, where students are working on individual project, special reports may be uh, given before the group together with an exhibition of their work. Notebook and written reports may be completed for final record of work. Now we will discuss merits of laboratory work. Laboratory work have lot of advantage and merits. We will discuss here. First merit of laboratory work is much of modern education practice is based upon the assumption that children learn by doing. In this method, pupils' own experiences is based off real learning. Student taught in this way learn to be observant, exact, and to think for themselves. This method, through the whole weight of the teaching process onto the process of the growth of the mind rather than on the storing uh, of the knowledge. Experimenting is naturally interesting and appealing to young people. The natural way of making discoveries and the way of human human race has taken shape is from the concrete to the abstract. Laboratory work is exceedingly concrete and hence interesting and enjoyable to the young student. It emphasizes the doing and it requires the student to accomplish something that is within their capacity. The use of laboratory method help to develop the student valuable personal qualities such as balanced uh, judgment and consideration for others. For instance, in moving about uh, in the classroom, sharing the material of making experiments, children learn to exercises self restraint for the benefit of the group. Next advantage or merit of the laboratory work. Learning achieved by this method is of higher quality, uh, more real, and more extensive than the acquired by the old dictate method. Laboratory work is an important element in the study of geography because there is otherwise no opportunity for deliberate the close observation of geographical facts. It is uh, psychologically sound because it statics satisfies the urging for activity which is fundamental driven in human beings. Perhaps the most important part of teaching geography is not the physical arrangement but the health atmosphere uh, of the class, which is conducive uh, to an attitude of information seeking, digging on the part of the students. The proper material and equipment and physical setting help to motivate the student to uh, drink deep from the well of knowledge. Next merit of the laboratory work is some topic of geography can be taught most successfully by activity method. This method is very effective in the area of physical geography and map work. It is through the use of the activity method that the child is helped to feel the significance of what it is learning. In this method, the students are encouraged to find out, uh, think about, and experiences, think for themselves and by uh, themselves. In this method, the learner are not mere listener but are the active participate in the lesson. Some of them are making experiment, uh, others are observing and making inferences from what they observed. Students learn by doing and come in the contact with raw or materials object in teaching learning process. Develop the power of observation and reasoning. Develop the scientific attitude in the students. Give an understanding of what research, what is research is, and how to apply the scientific method of research. Give training in organizing data gathered from real materials, object, and how these objects are manipulated to attain the objectives. Since a student come in contact with real life situation, it can be preparation for solving real life problems. Now we will discuss some limitation of the laboratory method. It is not so easy to make the student discover geographical facts or concepts by experiments. It is a very slow method of learning and teaching. It degenerate sometimes into a kind of manual training. Next limitation of laboratory method is geography rooms in India schools are not properly well equipped with material to follow this method. This method cannot be employed useful for teaching economic, regional, historical, and human geography. This method cannot be employed in the junior stage because the children have not developed their reasoning and observation power. Next limitation of laboratory method is uneconomically way of learning in time and material. Does give much training in verbal experience, experience, and when the time equipment is used, most of the time it is used becomes mechanical. For example, use without much taking any more. Following are the some of the concept in geography that may be taught through laboratory method. Prove that the sun is more nearly overhead in the summer than in the winter by finding the length of the uh, set down of yard yards sticks at noon each day. So shadow से भी हम पता लगा सकते हैं. When will the shadow be longest? Test the thermometer at the melting point of ice and the boiling point of water. Examine the maximum and minimum thermo meters uh, then taking a reading with them. stick a hinting needles through on orange. Hold the needle so that the represent the axis of each titled at the 231 divided by 2 degree from the perpendicular. Move it around a lighted candle which would represent the sun. Find where the earth would be. Dust particles in the air can be easily seen in the following way. Darken a window into which the sun shines. Make a small hole in the shutter and it admits a raw of sunshine. Shake a dust or burn brown paper in the room and watch the dancing dust. How would you find the light of the midday sun at the place the latitude of which is no? Rotation and revolution may be explained by rotating a ball around a lamp. To explain the causes of ocean currents, takes flash full of water, put some potassium uh, paramagnet into heat and flash from below. A current of hot water will rise and cold water from the top of the falls will come to take place. Potassium uh, permanganate will help the visibility of uh, hot current. These are the some example of the uh, geographical uh, that may be taught through the laboratory method. These are the references of the laboratory method. You should go through for further more detailed knowledge of the laboratory work. Now, times for MCQs. It is presuppose a well-equipped room in which the student have access to filling the blanks, which will promote better work. Option A, book and magazine. Option B, map and picture. Option C, drawing and construction material. Option D, all the above. Correct answer is D, all the above. Books and magazine, maps and pictures, drawing and construction material. Next MCQs. The laboratory method place primary emphasizes upon filling the blanks. Option A, books and magazine. Option B, maps and picture. Option C, drawing and construction material. Option D, equipment. Correct answer is equipment. The laboratory method place primary emphasizes upon equipments. Next MCQs. The teacher and pupil both performs certain filling the blanks based on the scientific principle to make certain concept clear. Option A, book and magazine. Option B, maps and picture. Option C, experiments. Option D, equipment. Correct answer is experiment. The teacher and pupils both perform certain experiment based on the scientific principle to make certain concept clear. Next MCQs, the laboratory method is based on the principle of filling the blanks. Option A, learning by doing. Option B, teacher center. Option C, none. And option D, equipment. Correct answer is option A, learning by doing. The laboratory method is based on the principle of learning by doing. Next MCQs. The student either individually or in groups make use of the filling the blanks for solving different problem in subject. Option A, book and magazine. Option B, maps and picture. Option C, experiments. Option D, material. Correct answer is D, material. The student either individually or in group make the use of material for solving different problem in the subject. Next MCQs, the types of laboratory methods are option A, experimental. Option B, demonstration. Option C, culminating activities. Option D, all the above. Correct answer is option D, all the above. Experimental, demonstration and culminating activities. Next MCQs, steps in laboratory method are preparation. Option B, actual work period. Option C, both A and B. And option D, none. Correct answer is C, both A and B. It means practical preparation and actual work. The steps of laboratory work, method. Next MCQs, limitation of laboratory method are, it is not so easy to make the student discover geographical facts or concept by experiment. Next option is, it is very slow method of learning and teaching. Next C option is, it is degenerate sometimes into kind of manual training. Option D, all the above. The correct answer is all the above. It means Option A, option B, and option C, all the limitation of the laboratory method. Next MCQs. This method cannot be employed in the filling the blanks because the children have not developed their reasoning and observational power. Option A, junior stage. Option B, young stage. Option C, adult stage. Option D, none of the above. Correct answer is junior stage. Option A. This method cannot be employed in the junior stage because the children have not developed their reasoning and observational power. Next MCQs. The laboratory method develops the filling the blanks. Option A, political attitude. Option B, economic attitude. Option C, social attitudes. Option D, scientific attitude. Correct option is uh, option D, scientific attitude. The laboratory method develop the scientific attitude in the students. Thank you, student. Have a good day.